Welcome, everybody. My name is Gregory Q. Jenkins, and I'm the founder and CEO of Quintasia Studios. And this is the Quintasia Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us today. As you may recall, we had Jennifer Petit Yen, who was from the Film Lab, in a previous episode. And now we have a gentleman who's with us today who's here, also from the Film Lab, and we're going to talk about the 72-hour shootout, and also we'll get to know a little bit more about him as well. So please welcome everybody to the podcast, Xing Zheng. Welcome, Xing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nice to meet you guys. Meet you guys, Greg and Harv.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And we're very happy that you're here, and we're happy to talk about, like I said, we want to learn a little bit about you, and then of course we want to talk, more about this competition that the Film Lab is hosting. So, and we're going to get more, again, for everybody, it's called the 72-hour shootout, and we're going to get into that. But first, I want to ask you, because by way of background and letting people know, a fuller appreciation for, how things came about, tell me how you got involved with the Film Lab.
Yeah, how I got involved was basically, I'm an actor, and I was kicked off school last year due to the pandemic, and then the school finished, and I had a choice of either start looking for jobs in the film industry or go back to school and do the whole virtual thing. And I decided to stay at home and pursue jobs, and I looked into different film internships and works. And I stumbled upon Asian American Film Lab through the Asian American Arts Alliance website because I was looking all over for jobs. And I applied to be an intern, and I was selected to be a social media and marketing intern. And I was an intern for 5 months before I was given the opportunity to run the 72-hour shootout.
So what have you personally, well, you talked about how, you from school, you were attending school, and then, unfortunately the pandemic happened, and you had to make a decision about whether you were going to stay going to school or start pursuing jobs in the film industry. And then you found out about the Film Lab. Once you got involved, tell me a little bit about how did you wind up being the coordinator for the 72-hour shootout?
Yeah, when I got involved, I was asked to do a press release for a final screening of their top 10 films, the grand prize winners from last year, their 72-hour shootout. And I wrote a press release on it, and people really liked it when I read it. And I really enjoyed writing it because I've always wanted to create or be a part of a community that does acting, filmmaking, and anything creative, a collaboration. I had that from going to my school, Sarah Lawrence College. And after deciding to not go to school, I was looking for the same kind of collaboration or some sort of partnership. And I was able to write the article for the 72-hour shootout. And in a way, I felt that I was at a really good place at Asian American Film Lab. And I felt like I was making real changes, writing articles and promoting what we're about. Yeah.
Okay. And so now that you've got involved, and obviously now that you're the coordinator for the competition, what do you think you what are some of the lessons that you, because you're also an actor,
Yeah,
um, what have you learned from all of this process? What do you think you came out with?
very good question. I'm still learning. Just so you guys we're clear on that. I'm still learning for sure. It's an ongoing process, and I'm learning so much more. What I've taken out so far is that yeah, it's people really function better when they have a community of people who've gone through the same thing. And you can find I've done interviews for other programs in the film lab with filmmakers, Asian American filmmakers, Asian American writers, and we always resonate talking about a common experience growing up, be it mental issues, be it racial injustices in the Asian American communities and other communities, and how to put that on paper and how to represent that. So I really took that out of it. I made some great connections and friendships, and it honestly just put an emphasis on for me to focus more in this platform to create a platform for underrepresented filmmakers such as Asian American filmmakers like myself and other people, and to really give the opportunity to people who aren't being seen in the media and the entertainment industry as much. Yeah.
And also, do you think that has it helped you as an actor, understanding, this aspect of the business from the writing standpoint, from the actual filmmaking standpoint? Do you think there are any takeaways that you as an actor came away with? Like, well, gee, how do I be present on set, and be better at that? And how do I stand out to that? Is there any takeaways that you got from that?
Well, I just realized more that like actors are just a small part of the whole procedure, you know. Like growing up, going to school, I as an actor, I've always thought, when I'm in a play, when I'm in a film, I'm always, it's about me. I'm trying to do the best job I can. Even though I try to be humble, I still somehow just get into the mindset that, I need to be the best. But after going through this process, hosting the film lab and watching people make films for the competition, I realized that there's so much that goes into it, and everybody just gets a small chance to shine, whether you're the director, you're the actor, and whatever. And the best way to do it is to be in a community of like-minded people, directors, talents, creatives, and do the best work. That's why 72 hour works, shootout works, because you are asking people who look the same, who are from the same background, who share some kind of similar experience, and you're asking them to tell a story in just 3 days. Everybody's heightened intensity and focus. Everybody has to be resourceful, which is something that all filmmakers should be, which is being resourceful and being creative. Um, Having been through this process taught me that it's not all about me being the best actor. It's about me being the best partner and collaborator and being resourceful in a creative setting and making it not only about me but everybody else. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's one of the big values of competitions like these. So let's dive a little bit more into the 72-hour shootout. Tell us about it. What is it? What is it about? How does it work? Um, and tell us the timelines of when the competition gets started.
72 hours this year, we're hosting our 17th annual 72-hour shootout. I'm really proud of that. We've been doing it for 16 years already, and it's been great. The process, the open register on March 1st, we open registration. We have the early bird registration, and as the time progresses in April, in May, we're going to have different registrations. Um, and June 4th, the first week of June is when we start the competition, and we like the title entails is 72 hours, which equals to 3 days, and we are going to give the contestants a theme, a main theme that they're going to base their film on, and they're going to have 3 days to make that film. Yeah, and then afterwards, um, we give ourselves about 2 weeks to a month to judge the film, and afterwards we have the grand prize and we have the top winners and everything, all the good stuff, all the all the good stuff. Yeah.
Well, it definitely seems like, I mean, what a challenge that is to get a theme, conceive of something, and then execute on that in just 72 hours. That's quite the challenge. Uh, let
Yeah.
me let me take a quick break here for our audience out there. If you didn't join us at the top of the podcast, this is the Quintasia podcast, and our guest today is Xing Chung from the Film Lab. And this is our second time having a guest from the Film Lab, and we thoroughly enjoyed our first guest, and we're talking today about the 72-hour shootout. I'm going to toss it over now to, for those of you who have been paying attention to our podcast, what we do here. It's our management team of the company, and we interview certain, guests for our podcast. So I'm going to turn it over now to our CTO, Harv Lecko. Take it away, Harv.
Welcome, welcome, Shing. Pleasure to
Thank
have you
you.
here and work with
Yeah.
you.
Likewise.
Wow, 72 hours. That's a very compressed timeline. Lots
Yeah.
to do. Are some people skeptical about joining a 72 hours competition? And what do you say to people who are a little
You
bit
know,
skeptical?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't heard the naysayers yet. They've all been excited about joining, so I haven't heard many people being skeptical about the competition. But I understand the sentiment behind it. I understand it 100%. It's 72 hours. It's 3 days. When people hear that and when they're trying to make a beautiful film together, it does pose a challenge. But I want to say that I think it poses a very interesting challenge, and I think it's a challenge that every filmmaker who wants to be at a place of professionalism and at a place of excellence should be faced upon, should be able to confront. I think
So what's a typical challenge that maybe people when they hear it's what is something that you hear a common challenge that when they hear it's a 72 shootout, and how do you respond to that? I mean, there must be some sort of pattern. You've been doing it for 17 years. You must hear
yeah.
similar, oh, how are we going to address this challenge? Could you just like maybe share a typical challenge and how the Film Labs responds to that challenge?
Yeah. Usually I would think that so we give out a theme every year, right? And
Right,
usually that theme is what's holding the filmmakers in a way accountable because it would be a lot easier if we told that theme say in March when we begin the competition, but we
right.
do it in June right as they start and they've only been given 3 days to do it. So the filmmakers kind of have to have a premeditated idea or base structure about how they're going to do it. And once the theme is announced, everything is a go. And it's only 72 hours. And yeah, that is a very decent challenge. Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
So I would imagine some people rise to the challenge and some people are a little bit intimidated by it since,
Yeah.
they have no idea. They can't prep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would guess that, someone would say, well, this shows my resiliency and ability to adapt, very quickly. But what are some of the other things that the people who join the challenge can get out of it?
That's a very good question, Harv. You know, I've seen short films. I've seen short films made in just a week or 2 weeks. I've seen short films made in a year or 2 years. At the end of it, it's a filmmaking competition, right? Where the filmmakers are asked under tight timeline to portray a beautiful film, to make a beautiful film. I think I think no matter what the time limit is, it's about the filmmaking process itself. You know, I mean, typical films, short films do take about 1 to 4 days to shoot. And at the film lab, we ask the same thing, which is 3 days, to be able to film and then post it to us. I think it's a good challenge that every filmmaker should have, and to produce a good content in such a short amount of time. And that proves to have that shows that the filmmaker has resourcefulness, it has resiliency, like you said, and they have a determined mindset to succeed and to put out a good work, a standout work. Yeah.
Now, in terms of putting out that work and
Hmm.
the community, obviously, as you indicated before, it's not just about the actors. There's a lot of people behind the
Hmm.
entire production. Um, what do you see as people sort of put these films together, and from different perspective, what is important for that team? What are the community aspects, and what are the things that you mentioned from an actor's perspective? It's important that you're aware of the writers, that the production people, everything. But is there a common theme that's important?
Yeah.
What do people look for to work together? What's that community that attracts them?
Yeah, I think the shootout has a common goal, which is to recruit Asian Americans. So ideally, you'll be working in a team of Asian Americans, people who look like you, people who've gone through the same struggle and the same environment growing up, and that inspires a common story thread that
Right.
hopefully the filmmakers take to make a good story out of it. And I think that is the key thing of having a community, and it's a community at a micro level, which is the team itself, right? Well, every submission has a team behind it, and that team is super important. I think one of the most important goal for ours making a competition like this is to encourage each team to be very tight bond, because so they ideally they have to be they are close friends, and they are people who have collaborated with each other before and have that kind of synergy together. And that's the micro level. At the macro level, we're this is what the whole film lab is about, which is about bringing Asian Americans together as a community, as a team, and work together and produce good work that in terms puts us in a good light.
So do you see, like, after the shootout, do you see people who have sort of haven't worked together before, that as they become a part of the shootout, does that community grow, and do you see them, join with the other competitors to work together?
Yeah. I mean, that's our goal. That's especially my goal this year, is to create a pipeline between the film lab and the filmmakers, and to create a sense of transparency between the filmmakers so that they can collaborate in the future. They might not have to different teams are competing each other in this competition, but I do want them to work together. And so each month we are building different events and panel discussions, inviting past winners and competitive contestants this year to join together and discuss the what is it like to make films in the midst of a pandemic.
Right.
Last year the winners last year had to deal with that. It was a very interesting edition. We call it the isolation edition, where everybody had to as it plays to the situation itself, which is
Sure.
isolation, and people have to remote film everything.
Right.
And I would love to bring those people back on and talk to our current contestants, because we're so in it. We're still in the pandemic, to discuss what it's like to film in a pandemic, and what it's like to use what you've experienced in the pandemic, be it racism against Asian Americans on a community level, on a federal level, on an international level, and use that to tell a story. Maybe that is a part of the story. Yeah.
Speaking of the story, where can people go? Where people go to find out more, and not only about the competition, but also film labs, and where can they go to sort of, as they listen to this podcast, where can they go, not only if they want to be a part of the shootout, but if they want to actually get to know more about this common community?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking that, Harv. I think we have our website. It's our organization is called Asian American Film Lab. The website is Asian American Film Lab, and I think it's .com, or you can go to Instagram. or you can go to Facebook. Just type in Asian American Film Lab, will come up right away. We have a good presence on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We post every video on YouTube, and it's very easy to find. And as I go into the shootout competition in June, we're going to post all the videos on YouTube from the submission.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Shing. And at this point, I'd like to turn it back to Greg.
Thank you, and thanks everybody else for out there in the audience. Once again, just to remind you, this is the Quintasia podcast, and we're going to continue our conversation right now. I have a follow-up question for you, Shing. So, do you think it's important to have the best looking film? Is that, what's the edge? That is it the equipment that's important that people are using, or what do you think is most important for this competition?
Having seen a lot of films from last year's shootout, I have to say it's honestly a 5 minutes film. We asked for the film to be 5 minutes, and I've seen beautiful looking films. I've seen films with beautiful effects. I've seen films with okay effects, just a normal camera. And what caught my attention has always been the story. Now we have in the past and last year where it's beautifully shot. The storyline's beautiful, the music's beautiful, great, beautiful. That's great. And I applaud that. That's probably gonna win really big. But my big thing is my main big thing as a filmmaker and as an actor and what I like is storyline. And I don't think a fancy camera is too necessary. I think you need the basics, but the important thing is to tell a relatable story, a personal story. Yeah.
So I have a follow-up, Greg, if I may.
Sure.
I'd like to know, as it goes into the competition, the delivery of the message and the creativity in the delivery of the message, how that weighs into the
Yeah.
judging of the product,
I
the
understand
film.
you, Harv, 100%. That's a very good question because last year our grand prize winner is a film called, I think it's called Raw Yolk, which is about this Caucasian man who is I think has right wing beliefs, and he wakes up in the body of a Korean girl. and so right and so and he's quite what's the word, xenophobic,
Concerned,
not really
disturbed,
prefer ethnic foods
prepared.
and all that. Yeah, and he goes to experience it, and the whole film is just 5 minutes, and it's about this person who has this mindset, goes to something that out of his comfort zone and experience, the beautiful food culture of Seoul, comes out of it, he becomes the biggest fan of, ramen, Korean dishes, like, and then the sauce that like the soy sauce, and that's a simple story. There's no fancy effects. There's no nothing. There's not even a lot of beautiful music, but it's just a simple story where it does make sense and it speaks to the core of what Asian American Film Lab is about. And the shootouts is about. It's about identity. It's about delivering a message that is about what it's like for a guy like that who is racist, who to go into a environment and then learn from other cultures and come back and have a complete change of mind. That's a perfect delivery of message, and I think it totally deserved to win the first prize because that's at the end of it, that's what the shootout's about. That's what the judging process is about. It's about giving us a message in 5 minutes and the delivery of it, the style of it, and everything else. Yeah.
Well, one of the most important questions that we need to ask you, because it would be remiss, what can you win if in the 72 hours?
Yeah. It's all about the. It's all about the prizes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good question, Greg. We can't forget about that. We currently partner with ABC and NBC and different networks and different private mentors of private companies, and usually for the past, our prizes have always been mentorship with a very esteemed person of position at a network. To help the filmmakers, the actors to build up that connection. Now, for the Film Lab, for the festival, we have a very diverse categories of different prizes. So, for example, best actor, best actress. You have your normal these ones, the Oscar ones, and you have your best editing. We also have the best LGBTQ filmmaker. We have the female content creator, and these individual awards are being mentored by individual people who are gearing, who are, they want to focus on those things like female creators. They want to mentor people like them. So we have a very individualized but also and diverse selection of prizes, be it mentor, be it prizes entry waiver codes for entering other film festivals, be it tickets to go into other film festivals when the situation opens up or it's virtual,
Mm.
and many more. Yeah, gift bags, all that good stuff.
Okay, well, I mean well, that's of course we would have been remiss if we didn't talk about what the
Oh, for
prizes
sure.
were.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I
Because I'm
agree.
sure people who are out there listening, hey, well, what can I get for it? But
Yeah,
it's good
yeah.
to know.
Talk about all these things and all the techniques, all the delivery, and then we almost forgot this big thing. Yeah.
uh, of what people are, the final draw for people.
Yep.
And I definitely think mentorship is definitely, um, I think, the pathway to democratizing participation in entertainment. We have to be better at putting more diverse creatives in the pipeline to give us the possibility of now creating people who are going to come out of that experience to get those opportunities to get the call, to be the director, the DP, an actor in for a project. The more people are participating and being mentored, the more opportunities that they have to actually go on to have careers, because I think the two are tied together. And I think it's so important, uh, you know, for for our communities, that competitions like this we highlight, because this is an entry point for a lot of people, and I think it's an important one.
You're absolutely
Um,
right. Yeah.
Now, let me just ask this question. So I know that the competition is sponsored by the Asian American Film Lab. Do you have to be Asian American to participate in this competition?
No, so basically, like we talked about, there are different teams that make different submissions. We just prefer that on these teams, there are at least one person who is of Asian heritage or ethnicity. And it could be mixed, it could be, part Asian or full Asian or whatever. Yeah, we just prefer one person on that team to be like that. So,
Okay,
mhm.
another important criteria that I want to make sure that our audience was aware of, in case people were thinking about participating. You can see, like, there there's a place on the web I thought I came across where you can actually see some of the past winners or participants' films.
Yep.
Can
Yep.
you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So basically, I'm going on the website right now. So you just type in Asian American Film Lab, and then once you get on the site, there is a 72-hour shootout on the top. You click on that, and once you click on that, and my computer is loading, and usually on the right corner, yeah, there we go. So on the right middle corner, you'll see something that's called 72-hour shootout archives, and it's 2020, 2020, 19, 18, 17, 16, and 15. And there's a lot more information there for anybody who is interested to see what the shootout is about.
Yeah.
And, and that Roy Yoke that won last year,
Uh-huh.
what was the actual theme that was presented to the competitors? Do you recall? Because I mean, when I heard what it was, it immediately struck me. Ah, I have to
Yeah.
see that. That sounds very interesting. But do you
Yeah.
remember? You basically said what the film was about and the message
Yeah.
it delivered. But do you happen to remember the topic from last
You
year that was
know,
presented to them?
the topic was actually going viral, so playing on the
Hmm.
joke of the
Oh, okay.
word.
Yeah,
And
you had mentioned that.
it's basically about this person who is Caucasian who is like viral on the you would say the right wing media, the right wing
Very
culture, right?
technical.
Yeah, and then you go with that, and then he's like that. Someone who's like that goes through the experience, comes out of it, and he becomes somebody who no longer is a influencer. We say we say influencer these days. Influencers, but not of that culture, but more for the Asian food and Asian culture advocacy. Yeah.
Well, I
See,
mean, here at Quintasia Studio, we have, a large inclusion, and obviously you might guess which group I represent.
Yeah.
So hearing that as well, I mean, I will definitely go and watch that. That seems to, something it would be interesting to see um, how that person evolved when they woke up in the body of an Asian woman and having the predisposition of where they started. I mean, I think a lot of people that are listening to our podcast, uh, and people who might be interested in what I have to say, I think it would be interesting for me personally, since it is very topical in the media, to actually see what points were addressed in that 5 minutes. It seems like a lot of material to cover and not a lot of time. So I'd be curious myself to see how they did it so quickly.
I think the
Yeah, for
another
sure. Yeah.
another point that came out from this is, and this just kind of, at least right when you said it, it drove in the point of, now if you just look at the topic, going viral, you wouldn't necessarily get Roy Yoke from that topic,
You
but
wouldn't. Yeah.
No,
why you got a Roy Yoke is because of the perspective of the filmmaker. That's what the filmmaker brought to that topic, is their perspective. And
Yeah.
that's why it's important, to have diverse perspectives, because they took that topic, which, you could have taken that any number of ways, and that topic spoke to that person in that particular way, and they came out with that film, Roy Yoke. So now, of course,
Yeah.
that we've mentioned this film, you've got to go out and see it, everybody.
Yeah.
yes, you have to.
Take a look at it. But yeah, I think that this is great. This is exactly why we think at Quintasia why this is important. This is why at the Asian American Film Lab, you guys do what you do. Um, I hopefully will we'll continue to see more stuff. I think it's important that we are giving voices to our communities who might not otherwise have an opportunity to have their voices be heard.
Yeah. And for Harv and people who want to see the video, it's on our YouTube channel, Asian American Film Lab. It's under the folder 72-hour shootouts. It's in a video called Top 10 Screeners of the 2020 72-hour shootouts, where
Perfect.
we
I
feature
Well,
can't
10
I can't
10
wait to
films.
see
Yeah.
it, Shing.
there you go. Well, I think this has been great. Like I said, we've enjoyed learning more about the 72-hour shootout. Is there one last thing, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or have people know about the competition that we haven't covered so
Yeah.
far?
I just want to piggyback off of the point you made earlier about network, a couple of topics away. That to also answer your question about what I learned from being a coordinator, being an intern at this film lab. I learned that connections and networks is super important. I learned that, like I said, I used to be, I was a little bit more, what's the word, a little bit more like, I felt like I was an
Self-centric,
actor. What did you say?
self-centric,
Yeah,
self-centric.
yeah. I was gonna say egocentric, yeah, but like, if I do a good job as an actor, I am good. I'm perfect. I'll get to where I am. But after joining the film lab and learning about the culture, learning about the business so much more, I realized that networking and connection is such an important aspect of anything we do, and that's something that I wanna I want to highlight for our competition this year, to have people have connections and network with each other to make the future projects, and that's going to be a super super important goal of mine to focus on that and to really create a community of not only contestants and competitors but also people who might just work in the future with each other and who know each other, who have something to hold each other accountable.
I think that's well said. And for those of you, you know, coming upon this podcast. That's what we're trying to do, is build a community. It's not just put out stuff and have you look at it and react to it, but it's about being in the community. And if there's no other reason to participate in this or many other competitions like this, is you need to be in that community. There's a lot you gain, as Shing said. The networking component of it alone, we think is worthwhile. Go out there, be an active participant in building the future that you want for yourself, and part of that, how you do that, is networking. It's an absolute must. You must partner with other like-minded individuals who are, have the same goal as you, and that's the way you move forward.
Yeah.
Well, again, I thank you for being here. I hope that we're going to do our part to obviously promote the 72-hour competition. We're looking forward to seeing this year's entrance, and we wish you, of course, personally, continued success in your careers, in your endeavors. And thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Likewise.
Thank you, Shing.
Thank
It's been
you.
an honor, much, guys. Thank you.
No problem. So on behalf of Shing Chung and Harv Lacko, I am Gregory Q. Jenkins. We'll say bye-bye for now, and we'll see you next time.